Welcome, folks. We had a crew down in Florida for Hurricane Andrew, which also had a tornado along with the hurricane. Devastation. We were also down in Charleston after Hugo. Devastation. I remember we were set up on the main street of the downtown of Charleston, and next to us was a great big ball of metal, just like you'd take a piece of paper and crush it up. It was the roof of one of the commercial buildings that had been torn down by Hugo. So one of those things hits, it can be very strong. This Florence is coming at us, and it looks like it's intensified to a Category 4, but it's aiming now for North Carolina, and the predictions are dire. 140-mile-an-hour winds, 20-foot storm surge, and soaking rain. But I'm praying, and we've been talking about it later. I just believe God's going to spare this area, and I want everybody to pray and pray for North and South Carolina as well, because they say one of these things, a Category 4 hits, the land becomes uninhabitable. So it's a serious matter that we're dealing with, and the governor, Henry McMaster's down there in South Carolina, has ordered an evacuation. He's closed the roads going in. All the roads are open going out from the coast. North Carolina, equally emergency, and the governor of Virginia has declared a state of emergency and ordered an evacuation of those people near the coast. So we'll see, but we'll talk about a prayer meeting we had yesterday later on in this program. Terry?
North and South Carolina are bracing for the worst, with more than 1 million people on the move to escape that coming storm. Caitlin Burke has the story.
Forecasters are clear. Hurricane Florence is rapidly getting stronger. It will likely hit the East Coast as a Category 4, possibly 5 hurricane, and its impact is expected to be life-threatening.
We still believe it's going in at Cape Fear or around Cape Fear, plus or minus 50 miles. Most hideous aspect of this may be the track is hitting perpendicular. This is not an arcing storm. This is coming right in at 90 degrees, and those are the worst storms as far as keeping their intensity.
We do know that we're in the bullseye. North Carolina is taking Hurricane Florence seriously, and you should too. Get ready now.
Governors in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia have already issued evacuation orders for those closest to the coast. The most sweeping orders coming from South Carolina, where the entire coastline was given until noon on Tuesday to leave. More than 1 million people on the move.
It's going to be inconvenient, but we do not want to risk one South Carolina life in this hurricane.
Here in Virginia Beach, local stores are already selling out of basic supplies. If you are not planning to evacuate, here are some of the most important items to have on hand. 8 bottles of water like this per person per day. At least 3 days of food that won't spoil, batteries, a battery-powered radio, and a flashlight.
Besides the power of this storm, the other major concern is its speed.
This is going to crawl west-northwestward. It will hit very late Thursday night, and Saturday night only be near Charlotte, and Sunday night and Monday night may only be near Asheville. And that means it's going to rain itself out. In every river, I think, from the Savannah River, which is on the South Carolina-Georgia border, all the way up to all the rivers in North Carolina, could break record flood stages when this is all said and done from the amount of rain that is going to occur with this.
Monday night, President Trump tweeted about the storm, asking those along the coast to be careful and promising the support of the federal government. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, it's one of those things, you just pray. We're praying here. We'll tell you about how we're praying. We'll tell you how God spared this area. Back in 1960, it was an amazing miracle, and we've had miracles ever since. So we'll tell you about what God has done. But Terry also has something about how to be prepared.
That's right. We want to tell you how to take care of yourself, your family, your home. We have a plan, and being prepared can help you and your family stay safe during a hurricane or other natural disaster. We have a disaster readiness guide. It's available to help you. You can download your free copy at cbn.com. If you'd like this hard copy, call us at 1-800-700-7000. Just request the free copy. We'll get it out to you as quickly as possible. Very practical information on here, and something that you can still have time to do, so get a hold of it. You know, the food has been depleted, so.
They really have. I mean, people are just buying like crazy. So they came and said, there are no more bananas. What do you mean there are no more bananas? Well, the stores are out of bananas. Well, we don't have bananas anyhow, but I mean, it's just kind of like, they've got water, they've got everything. It's just...
They're replenishing the stores now, I understand, but yesterday the water was gone.
I remember at one of those storms that we had, the power went out, and of course, the frozen or the meat area of the grocery stores lacked power, and so it was one of those things. I didn't have much money, and I was looking for bargains, and man, they were selling wonderful meat for pennies on the dollar. And
Filet day.
Yeah, filet. I mean, yeah. Instead of soybeans, I could get some really good steaks. So there's no, as they say, it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. So there was something good out of it. Well, a more serious note. 17 years ago, we were on this program and we were watching a beautiful Tuesday morning. Terrorists struck America in New York and Washington. At the Pentagon and the site of the World Trade Center, victims gathered to remember the lost. President Trump is attending a service in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, at a memorial for the victims of Flight 93. That attack kicked off a war that regrettably we're still fighting today. George Thomas has more.
Since that fateful September morning in 2001, Islamic jihadists have launched more than 33,000 deadly terror attacks.
The movements and ideologies that drove and justified that attack and the thousands of other attacks you name, that still remains very dynamic, very vibrant.
And these terror groups have hit targets nearly everywhere around the world since 9/11, from Iraq and Afghanistan to Finland and California. Experts say Islamic fighters have shown that they are far from exhausted, discouraged, or underfunded.
They still seem very prepared to fight, not ready for a diplomatic process.
ISIS, an offshoot of al-Qaeda born in the desert sands of Iraq and Syria, is much weaker, but by no means out of the fight. The group has carried out more than 150 attacks in 29 countries, killing thousands. Its affiliates or supporters are now spread around the world, including here in the homeland, where the FBI's director told congressional officials this summer that his bureau was tracking an alarming number of cases.
We have about 1,000 investigations into exactly the kind of people you're describing, covering all 50 states.
Despite the death of its leader, Osama bin Laden, in May 2011, al-Qaeda, which just had a few hundred fighters on 9/11, now has between 10,000 and 20,000 battle-hardened fighters in Syria. 4,000 are operating in Libya, and another 9,000 are in Somalia. Hundreds more are scattered across North Africa and Southeast Asia. And according to Western intelligence, there are about 50,000 jihadists living in Europe, including recent combatants who have returned home after fighting alongside ISIS, al-Qaeda, and other terror groups in Syria and Iraq.
They are faith-driven. They have an ideology that is derived from a theology.
17 years on, despite trillions of dollars spent and countless American lives lost, the threat from radical Islam is more widespread than ever before. May says the world should prepare for a long war against an enemy that isn't backing down and believes time is on its side.
We don't know how long this war is going to last. Our enemies don't care how long it's going to last. If we are not prepared for such a war, then we will for sure lose such a war.
George Thomas, CBN News.
You know, the Quran has two spheres, and one is called Dar al-Harb, and the other is called Dar al-Islam. The word Dar al-Harb means the world of war. Dar al-Islam means that part that is under the submission of Islam. Now, that's the fundamental teaching of the Quran. In other words, we're at war constantly because of the teachings of Muhammad. You can't, do you remember they tried to sell us on the theory that Islam was the religion of peace? That's baloney. There was no such thing. Islam does not mean peace, it means submission. It's what the word means, not peace, but submission. It's got a word, it's called salam, but Islam does not mean peace. Salam means peace, Islam means submission. And there's either the world of war or the world of, and so according to fundamental Muslim teaching, the rest of the world is at war with Islam. And so what is being done with Al-Qaeda is not an outlier. It is right at the core of Islamic teaching. Now, there are many people who, they say, well, they're Muslims, they're peace-loving and all that, and I'm sure that's true. But the core teaching put out by the so-called Prophet Muhammad is that you must struggle and fight, and jihad is struggle. It's not an inner struggle. It's the struggle to overcome this so-called enemy. And what Cliff May was saying in that piece, and others have said, if we just recognize this is a long-term struggle. They want to take over the world. It is based on global domination. They do not wish to live at peace. They wish to live as the superior being, and everyone else is going to be either converted, dead, or a so-called dhimmi as a subject to Islamic authority. That's the game, and it's horrible to contemplate that we've got to go through 9/11 over and over and over again, and thousands of people, as George Thomas pointed out, thousands of places where it's not just Al-Qaeda, it's not just Osama bin Laden, it's the whole bunch of them.